Hello, everyone. Welcome to Fridays on the Farm. This is a series that is a collaboration between the Minnesota Soil Health Coalition, the U Extension, the MNNRCS, and Renville and Redwood Soil and Water Conservation Districts. My name is Kelly Bladorn, and I'm the Coalition Assistant with the Minnesota Soil Health Coalition. Today we'll be in the field with Jennifer Hahn, the Coalition Coordinator with the Minnesota Soil Health Coalition, Holly Hadlewick, District Manager of the Renville County SWCD, and Kristen Brennan, State Soil Health Specialist with NRCS. We'll be talking with Eric Stelling, a farmer in central Minnesota and board member and farmer mentor for the Minnesota Soil Health Coalition. The MN Soil Health Coalition is a producer-driven, producer-led soil health organization offering information, support, and networking to Minnesotan farmers. Today, we're going to be talking to Eric about soil health on his farm. Eric farms around 1,500 acres with his father and brother, 160 of which are certified organic. If you have any questions during the session, please type them into the Facebook live stream, and our host, Jennifer, will be happy to discuss them with Eric once we get to that portion of the session. Enjoy the show.
Hi, thanks for taking time to join us today. I'm Jennifer Hahn, and I'm here with Nathan and Eric Stelling. We're standing out in Stearns County right now. They were nice enough. They're taking a little break from chopping to give you guys some information. So welcome, Nathan and Eric, and thanks for taking the time. And do you want to give a little bit of background on your guys' operation?
We farm actually in Todd County. We farm about 1,600 acres. We feed some cattle, and we do some custom chopping and raise corn, soybeans, alfalfa, a little bit of small grain, and that's about our operation.
We do have a little bit of organic ground as well as the conventional and no-till and strip-till ground. So
excellent. Yeah, and so you guys are part of the Minnesota Soil Health Coalition, and what that is, it's farmers around the state that are implementing soil health practices, and you guys are really interested in that. And do you want to tell us, like, what got you started? What did you notice when you got started, and why does it seem like it's going, in the right direction for you guys?
It kind of started in 2013. We had a lot of prevent plant ground, and we seeded radishes and turnips on a lot of that prevent plant ground. And we'd talked to some people, and they said that we would be able to no-till into that ground the next spring. So we tried that, and we thought, having the old mentality of everything has to be black, we figured it was going to be a disaster, but it worked out very well. And so that was kind of what got us started in this direction.
we must have planted, it was probably a little over 300 acres we no-tilled into that radishes and turnips. And the tilth of the ground and how mellow it was and how nice it was to plant into really pushed us in that direction and got us a little more aware. And then, in 17, we started farming hungers and got pushed into a little bit of organic ground.
The landlord of that ground required us to farm it organically.
And that got us a little bit more diligent on doing things differently for that piece of ground. And we've been implementing some of those things in some of the rest of our ground as far as cover crops, and then we got started on strip tilling 2 years ago, and it's been an adventure. It's not been without problems, but it has made us money and saved us a lot of time and fuel.
It's a very big time savings for us in the spring, and that's what got us really intrigued about the no-tilling into the cover crop, or the turnips in the radish ground, is just a huge time savings in the spring, fuel and wear and tear on machinery. So,
because like where we're at in Todd County, we have a lot of rocks, and if you don't have to work all that ground, why, that saves a lot of rock picking, a lot. Yeah. And we're at a limited workforce anyway, and we probably cut our fuel usage by at least
30%.
30% or half by not ripping the ground or doing the spring field work. You just strip it and plant it. And then come fall, them strips are a little more firm for chopping onto. And it just improves soil health by not tilling up all that ground.
Yeah. it was a hard. I've heard a lot of people say that it's a lot of money to get into strip till, but at the point when we got into it, we were looking at our ripper was starting to get wore out, and field cultivator and all of our other machinery, and we're thinking, boy, it's going to cost this much to trade all this stuff off. So we bought a strip till machine, and now that equipment will last us many years, and we don't have to trade it. So
Excellent. Yeah, you guys are doing a lot of different variety of soil health practices out there. And one of the things that we were talking about earlier is no tilling into the hay ground. And that we have some soil that we'll look at it a little bit later with that too. But we always get worried when we're planting into something that has a lot of cover out there. Is it going to close back up afterward? And I was shocked to hear when you guys are talking about that wasn't a problem at all. So how did that go for you this spring?
I was worried. I planted into standing alfalfa that was knee high to the point where you couldn't see your marker or nothing. And I planted it and I went out to check. You always dig for seeds. And the alfalfa was spent, so it was basically sodded in grass. And where it laid it open to get the seed in, that sandwich shut so fast, I had a hard time finding the seed. And so that never had trouble staying, sealed up. We had more trouble on the stripped ground on some more clay-based soils that this spring was abnormally dry. So the tracks right behind the four-wheel drive, that got a little dry and it opened up. And so we had a uneven germ right behind where the four-wheel drive tires went. Just 4 rows on them 16 showed up a little funky. Only on the heavy clay ground. The sandier, the more loamy ground didn't show up, but that heavier clay ground, it give us little fits.
Yeah. And like Eric said, we're still learning. That ground we may have to. Well, ideally is we'd have it stripped in the fall, but the last few years we haven't had a chance to do it. It's went from mud to froze within a couple of days, and it just hasn't given us an opportunity to do it. But
in our area, there was a lot of the corn didn't come off till it was froze.
Yeah,
I mean, everything was froze up before the corn was gone. So, I mean, it worked out that we did the spring strips. It's not ideal. We'd like to have them in the fall, but
it's like he said, though, it's a huge time savings. And in the spring, even if we have to strip in the spring, we're not picking the rock like we were. It's a huge time savings.
And when you don't have, kids around to do that for you, what? We should be doing it anyway. That's for kids' work,
Yeah.
Excellent. Well, yeah. So you guys are using soil health practices, but you're also looking at your acres in a more, management way of thinking, of looking at odd areas and straightening things out. So what have you guys been doing? When you look at your fields, how do you determine what you want to do for management down there to make you more efficient?
Well, we're just trying to square things up. When you have a little finger that's 8 rows wide that goes in back behind a wet hole, we've been squaring the corners of fields up and the ends of fields, so it's easier to spray, it's easier to plant, and you're not wasting seed, wasting fertilizer.
And we can always use the hay.
Yeah, we feed cattle, so we need the feed anyway.
And that has been maybe a benefit to our strip till program, because we take all of our acres of corn gets baled up for stalks, because we basically take the stalks off and then haul manure back on that ground. I mean, everything gets covered with manure.
We've got a question from Facebook. It says, what type of planter do you have, and do you have residue managers?
Okay, so the question was, what kind of planter do we have? And all we have is a John Deere 1770, and it's got down pressure,
Pneumatic down pressure.
The pneumatic down pressure, so it's new enough for that.
So we definitely use that when we're no-tilling into alfalfa stubble and that kind of stuff. We definitely use that. And then we went and we put furrow cruisers, a spiked style closing wheel, and that's helped a lot too, just to crumble that sidewall and cover the seed up.
Yep.
But we had residue managers on that planter, but we've taken them off. We don't use them. We don't want them on there.
do they cause problems for you guys or?
We had the Martin free floating ones, and I don't mind them for pushing the stalks and the residue out of the way, but when you're planting onto a strip, like the strip till machine, that's just perfectly mellow and it's nice. And when you're no-tilling, you're not gonna move the sod out of the way anyway. So the reason for having them just became non-existent. I've noticed where you'll hit rocks. Well, we've got rocks, so you'll hit a rock and it'll bounce up and hit the toolbar, and I don't care for that so much. But that's why we took them off. So there's one less thing to worry about on the planter, because you always got to grease them and you always got to maintain them. It's not something you could look at and not worry about. I mean, it's something you have to
And most of
climb around.
like I said,
grease.
most of our ground now is either stripped, or if we are no-tilling into alfalfa stubble, it's clean. I mean, there's no trash to move anyway, so just didn't need them.
Nice, excellent. And Eric, you're on the board of the Minnesota Soil Health Coalition, and a farmer mentor. And Nathan, we're getting you to be a farmer mentor. You just have to complete the paperwork, because paperwork is fun. But for you guys, you were one of the first in your area to be doing these kind of things. So you know what it's like to get started and to go through those first few years that we all worry about. That they're the toughest years, the first few. You guys have gone through them, you've learned from them, and now you're willing to be able to talk with other guys and gals if they have questions, troubleshooting, logistics, bouncing things back and forth, and hearing how it went for you guys. Did you have anything like that available to you, or when you guys got started, where did you look for information?
We went to the National Strip Tillage No-Till Conference for a couple years before we started.
He did. I never got to go. I want to go to that.
So I mean, that's really good information and a lot of smart people there. So I mean, if somebody has a chance to go there, that's what I would tell them to do.
Excellent.
I mean, that's just a wealth of information. Your head will be rolling because you can't absorb it all. But
good to go. Excellent. Yeah, and Eric, you have a key phrase that I really like that you use. It ties into being efficient, and that's something that you guys are really focusing on is, looking at what's going on out there, figuring it out, making a game plan, so that you can improve your efficiency every time, because that helps you do more with it. And so have you guys noticed with implementing soil health practices that has allowed you to do more with less?
Yeah, and I think we'd like to take it to the next level. We're trying to put together an interseeder so that we can get stuff planted mid-season so that the stuff has a chance to grow. We got rye we're going to put in after the beans, maybe take a cutting of rye and put beans back no-till into the rye stubble. But having that interseeder, that poses a few more challenges as far as sprays and stuff.
Yeah.
But once you get that soil, the microbial activity and all that working for you, everything starts to come together. The weed pressure starts to leave. I mean, we got a kid that's hauling with us today, and he's already once you get out there and start doing some of this stuff, there's people that are already doing that and implementing some of that stuff. And it's fun to talk to people that are doing it. And
yeah, the last few years, people have really kind of come out of the woodwork and said, well, I'd like to try that, and I'd like to try that, and they'll try stuff that we haven't tried, and it's just good to bounce back and forth.
Right.
And it's nice to know, what we've tried and what we've seen work and stuff. That there's too many people, like with the cover crops, for example, some people will try it and then they'll rip it out in the fall. It's like, well, you kind of depleted the purpose of starting that process. You maybe should have followed through with it.
And a lot of you'll hear a lot of times when people start no-tilling, there's a yield drag, and we never seen yield drag doing anything that we've tried. However, I think a lot of that was because we had a lot of soil biology already going, because we haul manure on that ground.
So yeah,
just about every year. So that carbon cycling and all that stuff was happening for us already. I think that there is a legitimate fear when people try to start this and they see a huge yield drag the first year, and Well, it's going to take time unless you have those bugs and that carbon cycling working for you. It's going to take time. But for us, we were kind of fortunate that we had manure and had
Had
bugs and some of those things were already
activity
working
in
for
the
us.
soil.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're fostering that before you got into it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And was that kind of the same way with the organic land too? Or was that one in hay for
We
few
put
years?
that in hay for like 4 or 5 years and certified it while it was in hay. And then we just kept pounding it with manure, and it had been conventionally farmed before that, and it was very depleted. In fact, there's still some issues there,
Yep.
but it's actually the corn that's on it now this year is probably going to be our best crop of organic corn we've ever had. It looks really well. I mean, it's probably weedier than I'd like to see it, but it's probably going to be our best crop that we've had. So I think there's things that are starting to work there.
I mean, that there was a field you went and looked at with us, must have been 3-4 years ago, that we've been no-tilling into, and that ground has gotten really mellow.
Yeah.
And the worms, the worm
The
castings
yeah.
are
You'll see
crazy.
a
They're
casting every couple inches
2
apart.
inches apart in
It's
that
just
field.
amazing.
Oh.
So the less we have to work that ground, the better.
Right, and then you're letting your soil organisms do your tillage for free. You're,
Converting all that organic matter back to usable nitrogen.
yes, and all those worm castings, they're full of nutrients for your crops, and all those pores and channels just make it easier for the crop to get down and find those nuggets of nutrients.
Mm-hmm.
We should call them nutrient nuggets instead of speaking of them poorly, huh?
No, that was fun to see that when we started no-tilling that particular field, and I think that
that field has really come to life, and I think doing this interseed and covers in there, they claim that really sparks that. I mean, just speeds that whole process along.
Yeah, I think that the tilth will come back 10 times faster than just straight no-tilling by using covers. I mean, I would say that's our main focus going forward is just to get something growing on that ground all the time.
That was part of the reason we took apart that 16-row cultivator, so we can make our interseeder on 16 rows.
Nice.
So that's our winter project, is putting together that 16-row interseeder.
So another question, how are you terminating the alfalfa in the organic system?
Noble blade.
That is an
Sweet
issue.
plow.
We don't like to plow.
Yeah, I don't. We haven't hooked on a plow for 15 years probably, but we're originally from northeast Nebraska, and down there it was more of a popular tool
implement.
And we actually brought one up here from Nebraska to terminate the alfalfa, and it works.
As long as you're not in rocks, it doesn't work too bad, but when you hit rocks, it kind of destroys the plow.
Yeah, so you don't drive real fast.
It's a 6-foot wide blade that just clips off the roots. So it kind of lifts.
And it's a timing. If you get rain right after it, it ain't gonna work. But if it's
dry
in August and you hit it just right,
it'll kill that alfalfa.
Almost 100% kill. It'll work very, very well.
Yeah. So we tried that last year on my ground, and it didn't work the best
because
it rained. And it rained. So we had to disc that like 3 times this spring.
2019 was not a dry year.
Challenge.
Oh dear. But now in your non-organic, when you do no-till into your alfalfa, you don't work that at all?
No, we just spray it off.
Okay.
Just spray it off, let it die, and then we'll no-till right into it.
And then it's neat that you have both those different systems going on, so you can see the difference and compare,
It's nicer if you spray like on, we would never, ever tear up any alfalfa anymore. We'd spray everything and no-till right into it. Whether you go in the spring or the fall, it doesn't really matter. I mean, you could do it in the fall, and then you could get it planted earlier in the spring. But this spring, like I said, I had that stuff that was knee high.
So we've got a question. Do you irrigate? And have you noticed a change in your water management?
This year we have one pivot, and it's not a very big one. but we have one pivot north of Sauk Center, and it's fairly light ground. And we've only put an inch on that ground all year. That's it. And
I don't
that
think
was stripped.
It made one revolution, maybe two. I think it's made 2 revolutions, half inch each time.
Yeah, 1 inch is what we put on
Since this spring.
And it was dry this spring.
And,
Yeah.
and we have Wadena Soil and Water come out. They monitor that. So I
They've
mean,
got a rain gauge and they say,
they chart it every week, so we know where we're at, and we're in good shape. We've never been short. So
Have you noticed an increase in moisture on your lighter soils and better drainage or trafficability? on your header?
trafficability for sure. It
Okay.
carries so much better for spraying. And like Eric said, if you're on that ground in the fall for chopping or combining, it just carries so much better. The strip ground is fantastic, and obviously the no-till ground is good too. But oh yeah, trafficability is fantastic.
because in our area last year, well, we chopped for a few people and I think we pulled
So
every truck.
the field that Jennifer was talking about that we have no-tilled now for about 8 years. That field we had corn on it last year, and we started snapping it because everything it's about 10 miles away from our main farm. Everything down at our main farm was underwater. It was bad. So we thought, well, we'll go somewhere else where it'll probably carry. And we figured that would carry up there. So we started chopping, and we made it about 3/4 of the way across the field. And I looked down, Eric was running the cutter and I was in the truck.
It was dark.
It was dark.
We got up there at night.
And I looked down and I seen a wave
Yeah, we were
beside my
chopping.
truck. And I said, Eric, I think we're in water. And he stopped and I stopped.
And
We
didn't get-
shouldn't have stopped.
We didn't.
should have
We
just
never
kept
got
driving.
started again.
Because I bet we went 300 feet, 400 feet in that water. And it was just, we didn't even know it. I just looked down, we're in water. And it was carrying that well. But what happened is once we stopped and I tried to back up, then it just rolled. But it was amazing to see that. I mean, most of the time you wouldn't have made it 20 feet into that. And
Yeah.
and we drove 1/3 of the way across the field in standing water. It was just amazing.
Oh man, that is nuts. So in Todd County, Minnesota, you guys are making this work. I know we're up north. It's cold, it's wet, but you guys are finding ways and tools and management that it's working out for you guys.
Well, yeah, we're just stubborn enough to do it, even if it isn't the most profitable thing. But I think it has saved us enough money that it has offset some of our loss that we've seen with maybe some poor germination and some of that stuff. So,
But like I said, every year is different. And we noticed this spring, learning coming forward, the soybeans that we planted into that stripped ground. That ground was similar ground, and not every year is going to be this dry, but we rolled that ground, and I think that kept that from drying out. And so it kept that soil to seed contact because the beans came out perfect. It was the corn that was an issue. If we have another dry year like we had this year on that heavier clay ground, I think we may have to roll that
just
to
get better seed soil.
get a little
contact.
better seed to soil. But we've had notice in the past that when we were farming conventionally and we rolled it, and of course on normal years you don't get but a 3-day or 4-day window to get your stuff planted, and then you get a monsoon for 2 weeks. But if it gets a dry spell like we had this year, we'll probably end up having to roll that ground
I had talked to some people from Senex south of us, and they say
south of El Rosa.
that they say they have some customers
Painesville.
there that are actually rolling their corn ground in strips, and so
Having good luck.
apparently that's what we need to think about doing.
Any more questions?
Excellent. Thank you guys so much for taking the time to talk with us today. We stopped them from chopping, and so we're going to let you guys get back in. I really appreciate it. And to hear more from them, you can find them on our website, on the Minnesota Soil Health Coalition website. Look them up, ask them a question. But yeah, and we'll also be posting this on our website and YouTube. So if you didn't catch the whole thing, you can catch it there. Thank you, Eric and Nathan, very much for your time. I appreciate it.
No problem.
Thank you.
everyone. I just wanted to let you know we're reaching the middle point of our presentation today. These are just a few resources we wanted to give to you to be able to look into soil health. These are some great resources that we've had, some of our partners, and feel free to click on some of these links or write them down. And as always, you're welcome to answer or ask us questions in the Facebook comments. If you have any questions about any of these resources, let us know. We'll be back shortly. Thank you. Hi again, everyone. I think we're going to head back over to the field to talk more with Jen. And again, just a reminder, if you have any questions, you can type those into the Facebook comments and we'll get them sent over to the field. All right, we'll head back out there.
Hi, thanks for coming back. All right, so we dug a little bit of their soils to kind of show you guys what we're talking about. So this is one of their fields that they have been implementing. They started out with no-till, they're doing strip-till, and now it's in their alfalfa rotation. And what we want to look at is all this beautiful, beautiful structure that we're finding in here and these great roots. And if we look at the top, we can see all these nice little fibrous roots. They're holding the soil together while they're protecting it. And they're helping to form that soil aggregation that's in here. And looking at the surface of the soil, hopefully I don't dump it all out, we are seeing a lot of worm casts and a lot of great structure that allows that water to infiltrate and to help reduce erosion. Because when our soils are aggregated together, it's like a bunch of friends standing there with your arms hooked. And it's really hard to, you know, push that group of friends over. And anytime we disturb the soil and we break these soil aggregates, it's like we're all unhooking arms and we're all standing there by ourselves, and it's really easy to push us over then. So it's the same way in your soils too. You want them to group up, you want them to get together. We have these great roots coming in through here. Obviously, yes, when we have alfalfa growing out there, we have good rooting structure. But the cool thing is I was trying to find some old compaction lines, some old plow lines in here. We weren't able to find that. We're seeing really good structure, lots of goods. We dug up some worms when we were trying it too. We did not kill that. No worms were killed in the making of this video. And we've got another one that we pulled up. It's a little smashed from being in the bucket, so I apologize for that. But we've got these wonderful, wonderful roots. And that's what's doing it, is pumping in all that carbon from the atmosphere, putting it into the soil, feeding our soil organisms, and having our soil organisms convert the residue and the minerals in there to plant available residues. So let's see what we find. Yeah, and looking at this organic matter, so I worked with the Stellings on their soil tests and yields and looking at how things are going. And over the last 7 years, their organic matter levels are steadily increasing. Their pH levels are evening out. They were really excited. Their cation exchange capacity has been improving too. And in this part of the state, you know, it's colder. We have shorter growing seasons, and we have wet soils, and a lot of them, you know, have a sandy component to them. And we're still able to do this in under 10 years, increase our organic matter and build the soil structure. Because yeah, when they got started on their farm, it was all conventionally tilled, worked, and they had issues with compaction, getting stuck, water ponding. And this is just so great. You can see the roots are holding it together, but it's still so mellow, friable. And this is exactly what you want. And it's still holding itself together as you break it apart. And to see these really dark colored soils, this is fantastic. We're getting really good organic matter in there. And so what that's going to give us, additional nutrients. And so for every 1% of organic matter in your soil, that can provide around 20 pounds of nitrogen annually. And also, we're going to increase our infiltration, have less water ponding, which is great for the spring or 2019. But on the flip side, once August comes in a regular year or earlier this year, that can also help hold on to that soil moisture. So a 1% increase in organic matter can hold 16,500 gallons of plant available water. So once July, August comes and the tap turns off, you have that water available in your soils so that your crops, they can still access it. And it doesn't hold it in a way that reduces the air in the soil, because that's the one thing that I was concerned with, was learning about that and seeing if it holds additional water, is that going to drown out the crops? It doesn't. It holds it in a great way so that the roots still get nice air. So we got a nice little worm. Sorry, little buddy. But do you see how well this stays together? And you can see all the soil cloths, all the little aggregates holding on to each other and by the roots. So let's shake it. Oh yeah. All right. It's kind of like a really cool hairdo. I wouldn't do it, but you know, some other brave souls might. Now let's shake it hard. All right. And what do we get after that? This is what we get. It's still held together. We still have those roots attached to it. And we still have our soil structure. Our aggregates are nice and strong, and that's going to allow the roots to get down there a lot easier, the water, and keep the air flowing through that system as well. Let's see on this other. And we dug this up. Let's break it open. Oh yeah. So we break that apart, give it a fresh new face. You can see all that beautiful soil structure. And it's all being held together so well. Oh yeah. Sorry. That's just gorgeous. I'm not finding a compacted layer, not finding a hard pan.
Jen, can you tell us about this system a little bit more, what the history has been from this particular field? I know we talked about it earlier.
Yep. So this is the one that they started doing in 2013. They had a prevent plant year, and so they put cover crops in it. And that was the only thing growing that year, and that was planted around end of July, August in 2013. The next year they came in, they just no-tilled right into it. They've been doing corn soybean rotation on that, and then 2 years ago, well, last year, they planted their alfalfa grass mix out there. And so 2014 was the first year that it was no-tilled. And that was when they were really surprised how well that went. And so that got them really excited to try more and to do more. So since then, they no-tilled it for a couple years. And then 2 years ago, they got the strip till machine. So they strip tilled it the 1 year, and then it was planted into the alfalfa grass mix. And so that's the history that we found on these soils. And the soils, it's a sandy loam texture on the surface, and we're up north, so we know that those soils, the sandy loams, they can be really tricky, being able to hold on to moisture, especially this time of the year, and to build the soil structure. And so it's really exciting to see this really, really, really great soil structure, even when we have a sandy loam type soil in it. And we're looking, we see the roots look nice and healthy. We don't have any lateral running out there. It looks beautiful. So,
Lateral roots, Jen.
oh, sure. So when you see lateral roots growing under the ground, what's happening is that root is going down, trying to find, get some more footing in there, get some water nutrients. But when it hits a compacted layer that it can't drill through, it's got to go somewhere. So it goes sideways. It doesn't want to come back up. So it tries to find a way sideways. And a lot of times, if you dig in the ground and you find a compaction layer, a lot of times when you break it, it breaks in plates like this. And so it's harder for the root to go down through that, and it's easier for it to ride on top. And so, yeah, lateral roots, those would be roots that are going right, left, wonky. And so when you see that, you know that there's a compaction issue. Corn and soybeans, they can handle about 270 psi of pressure to get their roots through it. But the nice thing is radish, annual rye, a lot of our other cover crops, they can bust through 290 and up to 300 psi. And so we like to use those as our tillage to be able to break up those hard pans. And then once those roots die out from those cover crops that we're growing there, your next crop that grows, they can just easily follow those root channels and not have to work so hard. It's just a breeze just going right through and following through on them. Awesome. Well, thank you guys for joining us today. I really appreciate it. I hope everybody can, enjoy the nice weather, but also has something cold to drink. Get inside, get that AC working, and join us again 2 weeks from today for more Fridays on the Farm. Thanks.
Thank you everyone for joining us today. And I want to say a special thank you to Eric, Jen, Kristen, and Holly, who were out in the field today. So just as Jen said, just want to remind you, we do have another field day coming up in 2 weeks. We'll be chatting with Brian and Jesse Simon over at Lakeside Prairie Farms. So we hope to see you there, and we'll be once again talking about soil health concepts, and that's taking place up in Barrett, Minnesota. So thank you again, everyone, and have a good weekend. And thanks for joining us for Fridays on the Farm.